All right, welcome to this video. We're going to move into the next two sets, which are the eraser tool sets. The eraser tool sets. There are three tools under the eraser tool sets. We have the eraser tool, the background eraser tool, and the magic eraser tool. Now, each of these tools are very interesting, and you would love to see how they work. So, very quickly, let's look at the eraser tool. The eraser tool works like your eraser you use in primary school, the eraser you use along with your pencil. That's exactly how the eraser tool works. So what it does is it cleans off parts of your image. It cleans off parts of your image. So if I want to delete some parts of these images now to clean off, I just come and exactly the way your tool works, exactly the way your eraser works in real life. Once I'm doing this, it's cleaning it. The reason why you can't see this now is because it's on top of a background layer. Okay, but if I turn off the visibility of the background layer, you can see that it has been erasing it, right? So let me show you. So you see, that's how the eraser tool works. Okay, it just cleans off parts of your image. I'll show you the application of this, but before that, let me show you. It also has the brush size and hardness. So if I increase the hardness of the eraser tool, I get a more solid erasure. Okay, more solid. If I reduce the hardness, okay, I get something a lot softer. Okay, something a whole lot softer, right? Good. Now, where in what kind of places can you use this? Now, I want us to create a new layer, right? Let's move, we'll name the layer new background. Name the layer new background, right? Now I want you to move that layer directly below your layer 1. Good. Now we are going to fill that layer with your foreground color, right? So what you do is edit, fill, or shift F5, foreground color, okay, right? Now I have this image here, okay, and there's sometimes you see some pictures where there's this faded image at the background. Maybe for someone's birthday, you see a main picture, you then see a faded image at the background. That's exactly what I want to show you how to do with the eraser tool. So with the eraser tool, we'll increase the size to say, okay, let's make it 500. Good. Now I want us to reduce the opacity a little to say 50%. 50% is fine. 50%. Good. Okay, let's increase the brush to the size of the brush to 700 pixels. Good. So now start erasing over the image. Erase over the image. Just as you like, just keep erasing over the image. Erase over it. Okay. Just erase over the image gently. Just erase over the image. I would have loved is if my brush size was a lot bigger. Okay, so you could see it's already taking that background feel we wanted. So now it's already taking that sort of background. So now you can write on this. You could put another main image directly on top of this. Okay, but even I still want to reduce this image some more. I still want to reduce the opacity of this image some more. I still want to erase it some more. So you see, I'm erasing the image, is blending more to the background. Okay, it's blending more to the background. Alternatively, you could just another way of doing this is just to reduce the opacity of the layer. But why this is more unique is because you could soften the edges of this picture. You could soften the edges, and when I say soften the edges, this is what I mean. Let me duplicate the background layer again, so I'll show you what I mean by soften the edges. Okay, good. So now to soften the edges, I mean something like this. Okay, let's make the opacity 100% this time, and let's increase our brush size to 1000 pixels. So it's quite a large image. So you can see what I mean by softening the edges, right? Or I think let's even increase our brush size to say 2000 pixels. 2000 pixels. Good. So you see this is softening the edges of our picture. Okay, so if I turn off this layer, this is what you get, right? Softening the edges of our picture. Okay, so this way, so there are lots of application of this that you would see. If I reduce the opacity of our brush to say 30% or 20%, you see I get to paint over this. If I reduce it to, okay, let's leave it this way, I can still paint over it to reduce it some more. I'm sure some ideas are already coming to you. You've seen stuff like this done in the past. How that's one of the applications of your eraser tool. Okay, one of the applications of your eraser tool, right? Good. So uh as after your eraser tool, we have your background eraser tool. That's also another interesting eraser tool I want you to work with. Click on the background eraser tool, right? And I want us to delete all these other ones we've done before. Okay, leave the new background layer, duplicate your background layer, and raise it above your new background layer. Good. So now what the background eraser tool does is it helps to erase the background of an image. Okay, for instance, you could see this model in here on a what I call a yellow background or thereabout, a brown background. Now I want to erase the brown background and leave just how you could use, we've already spoken about the selection tools you could use to take this out, magic wand, quick selection, and all that. Also, you could also use the background eraser tool for this, although you have to be stylish about it. So now for the background eraser tool, increase your size to say 170 pixels. Increase your size to 170 pixels, make it very soft, right? Now always look at your options bar for any tool you click on. Okay, so the first thing you see here is what we call the first thing you see is what we call sampling continuous. Now this is how the background eraser tool works. So when you click on one part, you could see it samples that part as long as your hand is still holding your left click and you move, it just picks up the colors around that part. It samples that part and picks up the colors, similar colors around, and it erases it off. Okay, that's sampling once. That's what it does. So it's referencing the first part you clicked on. That's what sampling once does. It's referencing the first part you clicked on. Okay, that's sampling once. If you click on sampling continuous, what that does is if I click here, right, it doesn't only reference this part. When I move upwards, it could clean up my main image because it keeps, you can see the plus sign in between the cursor, it keeps picking new samples along the way. So usually I like to leave mine on sampling continuous. Okay, and also for sampling background swatch, you don't really need that, right? Also another thing you should note is limits. Under these limits you have continuous, contiguous, discontiguous, and find edges. So usually, now let me explain how discontiguous works. So now we remember we're still on sampling ones. I click here, right? I click here. This is, I've clicked here and I'm moving in. You could see that my brush is also erasing the parts that are entangled by this hair. The parts inside is also erasing it as long as I have picked my sample. Okay, it still erases that part. You see, it goes in, it erases all those other parts, right? You could see it goes in between them to erase them. But now if I make my limits contiguous, look at what happens. It doesn't go in between. Let me zoom in so you see that better. Let me zoom that in properly. So you see, let's take that again. So for this contiguous, it doesn't respect limits, it doesn't respect walls, so it goes in between, it erases. You see, it goes in between, it erases. But for continuous, if you click continuous, it respects boundaries, so it doesn't come in between this space to erase. So in something like this, I'm at best making use of a discontiguous because it's here. I would like that the backgrounds in between the hair, they are also removed. So I rather make use of discontinuous. So let's zoom out and let's continue erasing the background. So um okay, so good. Watch how this goes. As you can see, just by mere clicking around it, we are erasing the background. That's what the background eraser tool is for. It makes it so easy for you to erase the background, especially when something like hair is involved. When human hair is involved, because if you're using your lasso tool, it's going to be quite difficult to pick out human hair with your lasso tool. So um it's always good if you work with your background eraser tool, right? So also I want to show you about limits. You see, the higher the limit, the more. Okay, now take limits as this. Now let me just show you first. When you increase the limit to 100%, watch what happens. You see, when you increase the limit, what you're telling Photoshop is, I want you to accommodate as much colors as possible. But when you reduce the limit, let's leave this on 10%, you say, I want you to accommodate the least colors possible. Now, you think this is just a color. This is not a particular color. It's a gradient of colors, right? So there are several colors. The color here, the shade of color here is different from the shade here. So when you increase the tolerance, you are saying, oh, accommodate a lot more of this shade. But when you reduce the tolerance, you are saying, just make it very specific. Okay. So for this, I want us to work with tolerance of 30. Okay. Tolerance of 30. And then let's start erasing the background. Okay. So let's erase the background. Let's go ahead, erase the background. Okay. Okay, so doing good, doing very good. Erase. So when I get to this point, I think I want to reduce the tolerance. Say good 23, then I come here, I click. You see, because I feel if I increase the tolerance at that point, it may end up picking up the color of the skin since they are not too far from each other. Okay, so let me increase the brush size a little. Okay, good, good. So let's come over to this side also. Okay, good. I hope you're really following. See what's going on. Remember, while I'm in here, no effects. That's why it's on contiguous without boundaries. So I click, just go ahead, go ahead. Okay, good. And let's increase the size. Okay, good. Reduce the tolerance and increase size. Reduce the tolerance. Okay, there's a mistake there. Made a mistake there. Okay. So at this point, I could easily just get my lasso tool. I could easily just get my lasso tool at this point. Just come around here and get all of this. Select all this background I want to get off. Select everything. Okay, add selection is clicked already. Good. Subtract from selection. And just cut this off my selection. Okay, then you can see this halo here. We don't want that, so we go back to our background eraser tool, right? We reduce the size, increase the tolerance a little. Okay, and then you start erasing. Okay, start erasing. Good. So that is one of the ways you clear up hair in Photoshop, right? So this is just a sample video. I want you to go ahead and try it. Go ahead and try it as much as you can. Okay, that's for the background eraser tool. Okay, it works very well. It's a very awesome tool. You could always use it. Save you a lot of time, save you a lot of stress. Okay, our image is already coming out, already looking a lot better. All right, so it's a tool that you would definitely profit from. But then I know you would want to ask me, so which tool is better now for removing background? The truth is, it depends. Okay, I could I could use several things at several points in time. Okay, it depends on you, it depends on your assessment of what you want to do, and it depends on the image you're working with, right? So all these factors really depend on if you're going to use the background eraser tool, if you're going to use the lasso tool, if you're going to use the polygon lasso tool, right? Or if you're even going to use a magic wand tool. Okay, so all these things really depends. So as you can see, Photoshop is not as difficult as possible. You have like several tools doing the same job, but then again, they don't exactly do the same job because it depends on what. Like for instance, there's some tools that there's some pictures that I would not be able to use this tool for, even though it seems like, oh, this is like the holy grail right now. There are pictures I won't be able to use this for. Okay, and there are pictures that I have no choice other than to use the lasso tool for. Okay, so that's basically what Photoshop how Photoshop works. Okay, so for this I could just select all of these parts this way, and cut. Okay, now this is just a rough this is just a rough tutorial, right? So I expect that you go back, you fine tune your own, right? Roughly, this looks very good. If you ask me, pretty good from where we're coming from. You know, we've been able to successfully change the background of this using the eraser tool, right? So that is important. I'd like us to save. You could save this. You could save this. Save it as Lady Edit. JPEG. Okay. So that's that about the background eraser tool. Then finally, we're going to be looking at the magic eraser tool. The magic eraser tool is one tool that I barely use. In fact, I don't think I've used it in a very long time. So for the magic eraser tool, duplicate the background, take that layer above all the other layers. Basically, it's just more or less like a one-click delete thing, right? It's like your quick selection. It's like your magic wand tool, right? Being that it works with colors, but then again, it just does a delete instantly. It's a one-click delete, right? It's a one-click delete, right? So for instance, I come here on the property bar, it has its tolerance, it has its opacity also, and it also has contiguous. So remember, this is ticked on contiguous, so let me remove it from contiguous. Tolerance on 20, and I click once. You see, once I click once, it's deleting it. I come here, I click delete, come here, click delete, click delete. So you could say this may be faster for you, but it depends on what you're working with. So let's increase our tolerance to say 30%. Now we'll click, like I told you, it's a one click delete. One click delete. So there you go. In seconds, you've been able to erase with your magic eraser tool, right? So Photoshop is very vast, right? There are some places where this works best. Magic eraser tool works best when you're working with an even background image. It works best. So for this new background, if I click on any new background and I click once, everything is gone because it's one single color. So the magic eraser tool works best when you're working with colors, when the background is not so colorful, when it has one particular color dominant. Okay, so that's that about the eraser tool and the art brush tool. I'll see you in the next video. We are wrapping up Photoshop really fast, and the next video I'm going to show you some very interesting things, giving you some more magic. Stay tuned. See you in the next video.